Right, so here we are again, and we are hosting another expert session today. And my guest of honor today is Mihaela Vitoria Zabraltanu, who's actually, we have a few pets coming over also to join the session, who's based in Italy, but she has a super interesting origin from Romania. I actually want to talk a little bit about how did you get to end up in Italy, Mihaela. And what we're going to be talking about today, Mihaela is ahead of CombiPel, which is a renowned Italian brand. They have at least 1,200 stores. That's the last data I saw around Italy. And we're going to be talk about customer disloyalty. If there's any customer loyalty nowadays, why the customers of CombiPel are different in that sense, and what do you do to keep them loyal? We're going to talk about being bold. I think you did something in Italy which was very nice. I commend you for that. Like transforming the Italian tram into a catwalk. And we are going to open also the stage for our audience to jump in and talk to Mihaela, which I think this is going to be an amazing session. So Mihaela, I always like to start with a different question. And the question I want to start today is there any loyalty nowadays in marketing or for brands? And how do you see that?
Yeah. Well, I think that this is a very tough question, in terms of the answer that we may give. But surprisingly and optimistically, the answer I can give you right now, it's still yes. So there is loyalty, and it's the result of many, many years of keeping the promise, I would say. But there is some details that I would like to add about being loyal, which is the age of the customer that are actually loyal. So I've been joining the CombiPel since the last 15 months, I would say. So I was pretty new in the company and also in the industry. In my previous work, I was operating in different industries. So I was, of course, in the very first place, very curious about finding much more about our customers, our existing customers. So we run some internal surveys, before doing any kind of strategy. It's important to actually have an idea of who you are talking to. And one of the main highlights that came across this kind of survey is that the biggest loyalty is within the customers that I would call more senior customers, which is above 50 years old. The generation X, we may call it, from generation X above to boomers. We have the most loyal, the most precious customers that knew CombiPel since 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And no matter what CombiPel did through the years, because of course any brand can make some mistakes, during the lifetime, they are still coming to our stores and buying and purchasing on average 3 or 4 times per year, which is, a good average for our kind of customer. While in terms of millennials, so the customer going from 35 to 45, more or less, years old, are the customers that, on one hand, we would like to be attractive to, and we'd like to acquire as new customers because they are really change drivers somehow. But on the other hand, they are very unloyal. So the younger the customer is, the easier it's for him or her to switch to one brand or one offer different than ours, if it's better in terms of pricing, if it's better in terms of style, of course, if it fits better their expectation. So this is the main difference that I think that we should keep in mind, that we are already keeping in mind in our budget allocation strategies. Because if it's true that we still need to have a good offer for more senior customers, it's always true that we need to attract new customers. And in that case, they might be younger, but they might be less loyal. So
Mhm. Mhm. And your brand, from what I read and what I studied a little bit, you guys focus on leather, products. Is that it?
Yes.
It's accessories. So can you tell me a little bit about the brand and the brand ethos as well? What do you stand for? And yeah.
For sure. For sure. So the basically CombiPel, it's operating in Italy since 1958, as I mentioned. And the core business of CombiPel at the very beginning was outerwear, especially in the leather segment. So the value proposition was very great, very high quality in leather at a very convenient price. This was the starting point of CombiPel in the very first, I would say, 10, 15 years. And they were operating through very small boutiques, right here in the north of Italy, with the entrepreneur, which is Mr. Massa, that actually founded the CombiPel company in that era. And then in the later 20 years, the business evolution was actually across the retail expansion. So they started to open many stores. Actually, they reached very great numbers in terms of stores, like 500 stores across Italy. And this was around the year 1970 years. And later on, they started amplifying the offer by adding total look apparel for both men and women. So more and more, CombiPel became a full brand, I would say, that could have a complete offer in terms of outwear, in terms of pants, jackets, skirts, any kind of apparel that you would look for in a store, CombiPel would offer it. So this would be like a complete expansion of the product as well. Through the years, the number of stores reduced. So in the last 10 years, we are not actually narrowed the number of stores. This is a very common trend for the retail company here in Italy, especially in the apparel industry. So now we normally industries operates with less stores, and of course trying to have a greater margin, I would say. So now we are operating with actually 106 stores. We closed 30 stores in the last 3 months, I would say. We are actually experiencing a change of property as well. So new investors came along because they still believe that CombiPel, of course, it's a great brand to invest in. But this is a little bit the history of the company and of the brand, I would say.
Very interesting. And I think there's so many routes to take from what you just said. The first thing is, um, so for you, what role the physical store they play for CombiPel? So and the reason I'm asking, I'm always trying to put Evolve there and learn things for Evolve. So we are a community. You've been one of the members from the get go. And we are seeing now an opportunity to expand our community into new markets, but you can't do that if you don't have local people who understand that market. And 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 for us, like, we are seeing that the meetups are super powerful from a brand equity standpoint, because people start talking about Evolve, and then we can acquire paid members, and we can start creating other offerings from that. But from a fashion perspective, you have quite a bit of capex, if we put it this way, like to open new stores. But on the other hand, brand equity is very important. That's a touch point with the customer. So tell me a little bit about that. Like, because you're okay, you close stores, but the importance that the physical stores they have for you guys, and yeah, I would love to hear your take on it, especially with the demographics that you have, right? Which is kind of
Yeah.
more like older.
Yeah, this is a very good point, actually, because you have two trends ongoing, especially for the 2025. The first one is, of course, the digital evolution, which we can say that it's slowed down a little bit. The e-commerce industry slowed down a little bit, but still we have so much margin to expand the portion of e-commerce turnover in our total business. Yet the store, it's still a very important channel. And of course, for a retail company, it's the backbone, I would say. But also in terms of customer experience, tends to be very important because people will go back to the experience, to the physical experience more and more. So I'm sorry to mention the COVID period. Once, maybe we will need to stop doing this for sure. But if you want to look at the, let's say, customer behavior after the COVID period, for sure, we had like a huge boost on the e-commerce, on the online purchases. But then after a couple of years, people tend to go back to the store and to actually prefer much more quality and value for money proposition rather than before. So this is a little bit the common trend that we are experiencing, and also that we are reading in a little bit of the report of the industry. So the store, it's still very, very important, and it's where the customer actually meets the brand in its perfect representation. So all the involvement, all the customer experience, of course, in the apparel industry, it's even more important because you're going to buy clothes that are going to fit well on you. And in Italy, especially, there is not so much culture of buying online and then return,
Mhm. Mhm.
you're not satisfied, which is something that we experience a lot in Germany, for instance. So people want to go to the store, and of course, the older they are, the more they will do that. So the store is extremely important for an apparel industry. I actually can experience that, for instance, also other industries are opening physical store, like Amazon. You would never expect, yet in Milan they opened a physical store. So this is a little bit to strengthen the statement. And also we have Luisa Via Roma. I don't know, guys, if you know it. It's a very famous e-commerce platform here in Italy that is focused only on luxury apparel and clothes. And it was 100% online, but now they're opening flagship stores also um, outside Italy. So, even if you are 100% digital, there is the need to be represented physically somehow, maybe even through one only flagship store that, is being representative for the brand, but you give the opportunity to touch and to discover the brand in a new full level of experience.
Super interesting. Tell me a bit about your acquisition. I want to mix my questions in terms of customer acquisition, because if it's a rabbit hole, we brought some retail media people here. I keep on bringing, but I mean, you can always invest. It's a infinite play, if you like. I think you have to open the funnel, but I'm also interested in potentially your community play, or your retention play. Like, what do you do to retain your customers, especially because you're catering to two audiences there. So you have the more senior audience, which is more loyal, and then the younger folks who are not necessarily that loyal. So I believe, well, some platforms, they play a bigger role there for you to be present. So tell me a bit about your retention, acquisition. What you guys are doing.
Yeah. So for sure, when you go back to like traditional marketing, you have the famous 4P, right?
Mhm.
Among those ones, the two ones that I'm going to talk about is the product on one hand, and the place on the other hand. So the product still needs to be the first item to leverage loyalty, because of course our apparel, our clothes needs to be qualitative, but also beautiful and stylish for our customers. And if they come in the store and they will find this is the easiest way to keep up the loyalty. It's not it's trivial, but it's true, right? So when you don't do this anymore, you cannot compensate with discounts, and even if you try, you're going to lose over the long term. And this is something that we actually experienced with the brand. Now, in terms of acquisition, and then on the other hand, engagement, which are the main two streams where I normally allocate budget, we need to, of course, start from the place, which is the location of our stores. So it's very important to understand where you can meet the perfect target, the perfect customers. And then, since we are talking about retail in this case, open the store where you have more physiological traffic, so that you can meet the customers easily just with the place, the localization of your store. Once you are there, so the first investment is this one. Then the next level is how you communicate through the windows, of course, and how you localize more and more your marketing initiatives in order that all the customers going and prospects that are near the store will be actually attracted by your store. So every marketing investment is about having two items always showcased, which is, of course, the perfect outfit of the seasonality of the season, and then also the perfect windows communication combined. So these are the two investments that we mainly do for in order to attract new customers and to generate what we call as a KPI in the retail industry, footfall, right? So the traffic in store is something that we actually measure, and it gives us a little bit the heat of our brand attractiveness. So we localize the communication. We try to have extremely appealing windows, impactful, and of course with always some very good CTA, a call to action that will, incentivize the customers to come in and discover what's inside. Of course, we will invest a little bit also in some above the line activities. Sometimes we did television, sometimes we did out of home, sometimes radio. So these are, of course, communication level that you can turn on and off, but they depend also on how much budget you have and you are allowed to spend. They are still traditional channels, but still working in terms of impact and brand awareness and consideration. So when it comes to customer acquisition, you kind of need to mix modeling this kind of investment so that you can always be present, and talking about the brand. Then when you move to the engagement part, we are talk a little bit more about drive to store initiatives. So the first item that I've mentioned is, before going to the loyalty, it's how you actually convert more and more a customer that it's already in touch with you. So it's a little bit more promotional, of course. It's a little bit more short-term oriented, but it's a little bit also towards a discounting procedure sometimes. But it's a way that allow us to be sure about our short-term results and turnovers. So it's important that we always are present with the correct offer for our customers, maybe sometimes with a very good discount on some apparel that they are looking for. And then when it goes to the loyalty part, we so far are not doing so much. I mean, we collect data of our customers. We have a club where you can join just by making a purchase and giving your data. And this club will actually give you extra points when you purchase that you can easily translate in discounts in some periods, or in your birthday, or very special occasions. But this is for us very important because it allows us to collect data and to put together some very strong reasoning about the future and about some CRM evolution that I think it's crucial for us to have in order to put in place a marketing automation. So this is where we are right now.
Amazing. When it comes to your let's talk about your social media. Would it be more like a retention or like an acquisition play for you guys? Because you mentioned acquisition, you mentioned retention. I would love to explore a little bit about the social media.
Yeah,
because things are not black and white, they are mixed, right? Like the storytelling and
exactly.
how everything yeah.
I think that's very it's interesting that you mentioned this, because it's really, really true that the ideal customer journey doesn't exist anymore. So we have
No. Yeah.
the theoretical, I would say, approach where you have a
Mm-hmm.
linear customer journey, but then you need to take into account the fact that you may have one touch point,
Mm-hmm.
in the brand awareness phase, but then the same touch point can come up also in the conversion phase at the very end of the customer journey. So where I would place social media for sure. Once we decided that we want to be attractive, especially for millennials, for
Mm-hmm.
a little bit younger customers, I think that the first decision that needs to take is we need to be on social media. So we need to invest on that, and we need to be with the correct contents. So it's just
Mm-hmm.
not the presence itself important to decide, but then more and more we need to understand which is the perfect content for your target customers. So I think that social media can do a very good job in both
Mm-hmm.
areas. So once you know the person would get in touch with you just um, at the very beginning at the customer journey, of course the first action that they would do is to look online for your
Of course.
presence,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
if they find you there, it's something that would strengthen their approaching evolution towards your brand. But then
Mm-hmm.
by posting correctly your new wins, your new arrivals, your novelties on the social, then the social media can easily convert and take
Mm-hmm.
you instantly also in the last part of the customer journey. So I think
Mm-hmm.
they can do a very good job in both
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
areas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for what we are seeing, and I mean, I do have I think it's first off fascinating what you do, because there's in my family there's business in the apparel industry as well. So I'm always very curious to see what people are doing and how they're doing it. But from a community standpoint, um, completely different business, but the idea of having people, retaining people, a community isn't for everyone. I always say this is not a democracy, like we have a vetting process. So we understand who we want to talk to. We understand that we more and more we understand our cycle now. We get people to get to our let's say our free group, and over time they get comfortable being here, and over time may want to become a paid member. So it's a journey there because uh, I'll explain quickly. Like yesterday, Gustavo and I, we were seeing that we are barely showing our deck to our customers or potential customers, because now they have a sense that they are in a group, they get comfortable. So when we talk to them, we're not strangers, right? So we are in a comfortable position to pitch, and they're like, okay, we're not ready now, but we understand what you guys are doing, and they're referring us. So this is really powerful. We are using we created a project called Voices, which we'll talk about this later. Not sure if you've been following, but we have multiple voices in different markets, and they're doing like top of the funnel for for Evolve. So people are knowing about Evolve. They're getting they understanding about us because we have ambassadors representing the brand Evolve, and it's them activating their network and talking about Evolve. So it's not me or Gustavo. We have people who believe in our brand now and who are mirroring that. So I'm always very interested in, okay, this is what we're doing with Evolve. It seems to be working at a very small scale compared to you guys, but I see that the community play is such a powerful play for brands, because you can collaborate eventually with other communities as well. Does it make sense? You can start, if you start, I think businesses, and that's a personal take that I have, if they start being media first companies, right? Because everybody's got, like, you guys have a platform, companies have a platform, but you cater to a very specific type of audience, and you have a loyal audience that could be interested in, I don't know, some other stuff. In, they have pets, you can start mapping out, right? Like you have a beautiful, I think it was a cat, a beautiful pet there.
It's here.
Right.
It's
So
lying
I'm
on the
always,
table.
I'm always interested in that, because that type of thing enables us to become more intimate with our customers and have like a conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's very true what you are saying. So community itself um, are very powerful environments for customers, and a very powerful way to actually have them involved and keep them all together. Of course, it requires a great community management. So not always this is a luxury that one can afford for just a niche portion of your customers, because the bad thing, let allow me to use the bad word about a community, is that normally it's a very small portion of your global customers.
Mhm.
So they have great value, customer lifetime value, of course, but they are a very small percentage. And the last ingredient that I would add, it's very much related to the kind of product that you deal with. So if, for instance, in my previous experience, I was working in a jewelry company. It was not just jewelry company. It was, I would say, something. Do you know Pandora?
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
the concept was to have a starting bracelet or the starting jewelry piece, and then you would add on it in terms of how you would like to personalize it. Now, what this means, in other words, it's a collection mode, right? So people would really become obsessed by having more and more. Pandora would call them charms. We in Troll Beats call them beads. So you would add more and more beads because you were obsessed with having so many, of course, because of the craftsmanship. They were handmade. It was silver. Every single bead would represent a story, would have a very nice story and romantic thing that you would like to tell about yourself through your bracelet. Now, in that case, like normally and physiologically, communities would just rise up because, by definition, we would have so much passionate customers to the collection mode of the product. In the apparel industry, this happens a little bit less. So it's a little bit less about the romantic part of the product. It's not so strong the feeling that you have with the product. It's more about how you feel about yourself when you look good in those kind of clothes, right? So it's a little bit more difficult to create this kind of engagement. But I think that now platforms more and more allow us to actually create some communities, for instance, WhatsApp broadcasts or WhatsApp communication, where it's really important to start investing because you can communicate to your customers, maybe not involving them, but just showcasing them with visuals what you are trying to do, and maybe some
mhm.
new product, new projects, or some new specific projects targeted for some specific customers. So in the fashion industry, I'm seeing a trend where broadcasts and channels, dedicated channels, are really, really taking, let's say, a kickoff moment, because people
Mhm.
can be more involved in the product, in the new products that you are making and you are launching. And the visual part, it's very interesting and very informing for them, and of course, engaging.
I completely agree, and I think sometimes I think there is always a market, but it's hard sometimes to find who are you serving actually. But there's a I mean, think of art. Who am I to judge if I may judge something is ugly, but someone's gonna pay like for
Yeah,
someone's gonna pay 30 million bucks or 3 million bucks for a banana on a wall. Remember that? There's
totally.
a market,
Yeah,
right? So
totally.
there's a market for everything, and I think it's identifying your market is a real challenge. But identifying, we had a call, and I want to introduce you to Laura. She's amazing. She's a community builder from Germany. She talks a lot about identifying your super consumers, super customers, because they are doing all of the heavy lifting for you, you know.
Right.
So and they can create, for example, I think, I'm not sure if you guys have Pinterest there as one of the channels for inspiration, but it's interesting how customers, they can surprise us and give insights on how they are using the product that we wouldn't,
Yeah.
we wouldn't have thought about, right? So
Yeah.
which channels do you use there to potentially, do you have customers like this user generated content? Do you have customers, or do you observe some customers that are, you know creating stuff with your accessories and
Yeah, I think it's a very strong point that you are making, and I totally agree with you that the part where having your customers as ambassadors somehow is
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
winning strategy. We are not using so much user generated
Mhm.
contents in this moment, with the event that you mentioned before. So when we actually invest in some, for instance, live shopping or
Mhm.
live events, we are we involve in this moment more like creators, very small ones,
Mhm. Mhm.
micro
Mhm.
influencers or creators.
Mhm.
Now they like to be called creators. And in that case, they would generate contents, videos with their experience, maybe actually wearing CombiPel apparel and then reposting a lot. And we saw that in some experiments that we did, including the tram one, we actually had immediately some very nice and interesting hype in terms of
Mhm.
visitors on our websites and also followers on our social media pages. So again, it's not a matter of not finding it strategically relevant. It's just not on the top of priorities right now. But for
Mhm.
sure, the direction in which user generated contents, not only created by small creators, but also by our customers that can become somehow creators, I think that it's a direction that we need to explore more and more. So it's a very good point that you're making.
And tell me a little bit about the. We are on 32 minutes nearly here, 33. So I think it's my last question before we'll start inviting our community. But about the live shopping experience you did, was it a one-off? You guys plan to do more? The challenges also, because I know there's a lot of work. By the way, I'm a volunteer today at the Squash Center. And there's a squash event, a professional squash event happening here, and I'm the guy doing socials, doing interviews, like,
Nice.
so it's a lot of work, just to you create a small video and then you go to Instagram, CapCut, do the editing, all of that. It's a lot of work. Uh, so I understand what it takes, but what was that experience like, and do you intend to do more of that?
Yeah, I loved that experience as well. I think that the great part of that experience was actually working together with so many different teams, and we started from a business objective, like we wanted to do a live shopping where you basically want to have also some sales during the event. So this is a very, very mm, not fancy, thing to say, but it's still business. So we need to take that into account. But then we said, okay, we are apparel, right? We are in the fashion industry. We are not those brands that can afford to actually, have a catwalk and to have a fashion show, because I would say that this kind of event, it's correct to give it back to the luxury segment. So we are not in that kind of positioning, but we wanted to merge somehow creative ideas to refresh a little bit the fashion show, to give it a flavor of something really unique, maybe also a little bit less uh, luxurious moments, and also in a combination with a live shopping event. So, this was a very good example where creativity and business worked together and actually turned into a very nice experiment, which is the fashion show on a tram, on a walking tram, and during that also the live shopping ongoing. What can I say about this kind of impact? It was huge in terms of content generation, because at the end of the
Mhm.
day, what we had was in the first place, the video of the live shopping itself, right? That went on our social media channels, that went on our website, and that went on in all the communications and related communication that we did afterwards. So this is somehow a new way to do a shooting. For example, instead of doing the shooting with a video, you just do a live shopping and you create a little bit more interactive content that will still be on your social media platforms, so for weeks later. And then by inviting in this kind of event people, creators, suppliers, internal people that would actually, wear and attend the event, would generate a reflection of this kind of posting on their social media, and this would create a little bit of the word of mouth, digital word of mouth, I would call it. So it was really, really interesting in terms of activity. You can also switch to the offline, let's say, consideration, where you actually had a tram with our logo walking through a city. So this is also advertising. For sure, I would like to repeat this kind of experiment. For sure, I would like to double it, so to scale it up a little bit more, because now it was very much original, but it didn't amplify, because it was just one. So when you do this kind of stuff, I think it's important to amplify a little bit more. So for instance, pick five big towns, 5 big cities, and do it all this at the same time, the same kind of thing. So you can imagine the how much it resonates, this kind of activity. So this is my objective, to keep being creative in this kind of situation, and have a budget dedicated on this kind of investment, which is allow me a little bit more brand awareness and consideration, rather than conversion, because this would not generate immediate sales. But for a brand that would like to be a little bit more modern, a little bit more appealing for a younger customer, this is the direction that needs to follow up on, with the correct frequency. So a standalone activity won't give you much by definition. So you need to have a little bit more frequency.
I mean, there's just so many routes that we can take from the things that you're saying, like conversational commerce. Do you guys do WhatsApp sales?
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Interesting. Very cool. So Mihaela here. I was actually trying to persuade her to join us on stage. I think it's always nice. Mihaela, I'll try, and if your connection is not very good, then we'll just read your question out loud. So, Gustavo, please, could you invite Mihaela? And hey, everyone, you're very welcome to jump on stage with me right now and ask Mihaela here a couple of questions. So that's the opportunity we have to connect our community and to get everyone closer.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, it's working.
Hey. Yes, I switched to a room with better connection, so I hope it works.
Great.
But thank you, Mihaela, for the session for now. And I think you touched a lot of interesting topics. But I actually was thinking about one thing when you were talking about store visits and so on. And then I was curious to understand how do you measure or track store visits from campaigns? And do you do it through like the media channel, or do you do it through a third party tool, or yeah?
Well, that's you are opening a Pandora vase in this moment, because if this is my huge pain, of course, by measuring every kind of activity that we do. So when you get into this kind of area, of course, we get very much statistical. So far, the best approach that we had in measuring campaigns and advertising that goes from radio to the Windows display to the messaging, but also SMS sending. We basically create a statistical model where we understand how much this would impact on year-on-year growth versus baseline, right? So this is so far the data scientist work and that we are doing in terms of marketing KPI monitoring. I am looking with high interest in platforms that are positioning themselves in the market in the 3Ms direction. So mix marketing modeling, right? So where they basically try to put together 2 years data of every kind of an investment that you do, and transform this into pretty much correct and reasonable impact on sales and traffic, if you want, so that you can correctly allocate budget in the next year. These are some, it's not a low investment. If you want, I can give you some numbers, but if you want to implement this kind of tools, you normally go from 30K to 50K on a yearly basis. And it's an investment that it takes some time to correctly input in the budget, in marketing budget, as every kind of an investment that is not immediately related to sales would do. So this is, I don't know how many of you are having like a career in marketing in big companies, but the biggest challenge that we marketers have is to consider budget for research, for brand service, and for tools that would still optimize some actions but not give you immediate impact on results. So it's going to take some time. So right now we are just doing the dirty job with data scientists, where we look at correlation of weekly investments and understand the impact on footfall and sales. I hope that this answered you a little bit the question, but this is where we are right now.
Yeah, I was thinking that you're already using like a magic tool that I wasn't aware of, so maybe I could get some insight there. But
no, but I do have some of them on the table. So maybe if you want, we can get in touch later on, and for sure I can put you in contact, because I had some demos. So I invest my time in looking into this for sure.
I would love to.
Yeah, let's do that. I didn't invest my budget yet, but for sure I invested my time.
That's good. That's great. Yeah.
Thank you, Mihaela. All right, so do we have any other person? I mean, I have several questions, but I would love if you guys could just jump in. I think Mihaela, also from Croatia, she wanted to talk about influencers. Not sure Gustavo mentioned. Mihaela, you're very welcome to expand a little bit on that point, if you don't mind, or I can keep on asking questions here. Let me see. I think we have raise hands. Yes, Mihaela, go ahead.
Hi, do you hear me? Just to check.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And the camera. Okay. Yeah, no, I had a question about influencers, but in that moment you actually answered my question. But I was wondering, are you guys using maybe AI in some line of your work? You mentioned that you're working with data scientists on something. Yeah. So if you can expand more on that.
How can you not consider AI nowadays? I mean, for sure, it's something that I want to be friend with. So I am already using ChatGPT. I expanded it to my team. So my team is somehow practicing, especially for the copywriting part. So everything that we are copywriting, like newsletters, emails, internal communication, for sure at some points goes through the ChatGPT platform. I think it's also very interesting in terms of SEO. So all the website descriptions, it's very useful to have this kind of tool that will allow you to have keywords correctly selected, to be a little bit more relevant on Google platform and in terms of engine optimization. And for now, I'm looking at some experiments on content generation at a visual standpoint. So, in the apparel industry, the shooting part is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the one that would go on the e-commerce. So when you have the shooting for the products, you just have to have different kind of versions, front, back, still life, and then with the model.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this kind of proliferation, so this kind of multiplication of the shooting, starting from one item, I know that there are some solutions from IE, but in artificial intelligence, I tested them. The result wasn't perfect. So, we had this problem with models that, for instance, if you switch to a black color model, it will still have some, color like stains, white stains around,
Mm-hmm.
the dress details. So it's not perfect. So I wouldn't give it 100% without controlling to the artificial intelligence the activity without controlling it, because it's not correct.
Mm-hmm.
But for sure, I want to consider it. Right now, it's more about the content generation, and I myself use it very much on anything I want to do. Also, presentations, internal, every kind of process that I have, I try to ask myself, how can I optimize it and reduce it by using artificial intelligence? Because from my point of view, the great value of artificial intelligence, it's not in how you generate, innovation, but it's more how you reduce operations, how you impact on processes. And I think that this can be exploited so much.
Mm-hmm. That's great. It's really nice to hear that you're already using AI and like getting acquainted with that. I was wondering if you maybe use it also in some processing regarding like product inventory when you're adding new products to your website, if you're automating like product tagging or
Yeah.
maybe improving search on your website. I don't know if you maybe
Yeah.
consider these options.
So not yet. I'm looking. We are using as a CRM right now MAP. I don't know if you know it. It's a marketing
No.
cloud software, right? So we started using this for newsletter in the very first place. So now I'm considering to add some more channels and integrate them through this platform MAP. And they presented me, and I'm very interested in this module, so this evolution, which is called Map Intelligence, which is based on, of course, artificial intelligence that is very smart in analyzing data and then forecast, provision, product recommendations based upon that. So I think this is the only product that I saw in this kind of direction, and I'm very interested in. And I like that they integrate easily with Shopify, which is the e-commerce platform that we have. I don't have an output for you right now. So it works correctly. It doesn't work. It adds value. I think it needs to require a little bit of a roadmap of a project, because internally it touch points with different areas and functions. But yeah, for a big company, we have 2 million customers in our database right now. We have 100,000 visitors per month, more or less, on the website. So how can we not exploit this data in the best possible way? So we need for sure to invest more and more in this kind of structure.
Yeah, you definitely have a lot of opportunity on this area. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Mihaela. Brian, you go ahead.
Hi. Thank you for
Hi.
the talk. I just want to ask a question earlier. So earlier you mentioned background, a little bit background. So we run a lot of experiments ourselves too, or we're trying to run more experiments because it's kind of like as a startup we don't really know what will hit or will not hit. So a lot of times we run a lot of experiments to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And earlier you said like, for instance, you said you run these creative experiments, and then you said sometimes these like new generations and stuff like that with live sales and stuff like that. But you said like it doesn't really generate conversion maybe right away sometimes. What kind of other creative metrics do you guys use to kind of track like if this is a meaningful experiment versus a not so meaningful experiment?
Yeah, this is also something that I ask myself when I try to understand how to perfectly measure this kind of investment, because I totally believe that of course you need to look at the bottom of the top lines, so you need to increase sales, but if you only look at that, you will somehow turn off so many good things that wouldn't immediately give you results. So I ask myself, how can we measure in the very first stage in a best way an action that can translate in revenues later on. So it's very actually from my point of view, even if I don't get very technical, but I just look at a little bit more, interactions that can be still tracked through the platform. So visitors, of course, traffic and visits that will come from this kind of activity, so this kind of content. Of course, the interaction with those contents, so the click-through rate, it's something that, of course, I would look at. It's an organical, in this case, it was organic. Once you post this kind of contents, you actually understand if they generate traffic, clicks, and new followers. So for me, since this, I saw a very big hype on every one of this kind of KPIs. For me, it's already interesting. Then later on, you will understand if this new traffic would actually convert, if it's qualitative for you, or if it's just, a very instant interest in what you did, but then it doesn't resonate with the brand. So it doesn't stop there, for sure, the observation, but it's a starting point. So this is the first things that you measure with your activity.
Got it. Thank you.
Very nice. Thanks, Brian. Not sure if Rafa wants to ask. Oh, Gustavo is here. Great. Go ahead, Gustavo.
Yeah, great. So, I have a doubt. So, you're brand director and CMO, and I have a question around what's the way when you're thinking about investment in brand and acquiring new customers and ads and everything. So, how do you wait on where to in splitting this money? So, what do you see, or what do you expect, or what do you see when you want to say okay, so let's invest this amount of money in brand and this amount of money in ads to bring real customers, so in a short term, let's say. But the brand needs, because the brand work, it's a long process, right? It's not usually, it's a more long-term process. And how do you weight there? So how do you understand, what's your vision to understand that? So we need now the brand, we need now the clients buying fast. So.
Yeah, well, it's a very good question, Gustavo, and it cannot be answered without adding one element, which is what does the business wants in the first place. So when you decide marketing allocation, the first thing that I really recommend to myself in the very first place is to make sure that I am very much aligned with the business. This means that if the business wants aggressive returns in the very short time, you won't have much space to invest in branding, but it's your duty to make the business understand the implications of not doing that. So this is my approach, to marketing. Probably everyone has one. In my opinion, marketing has two responsibilities. The first one is to be very aligned with the business and the company. Where does the company want to get? Maybe also challenge to have this objective if the company doesn't give you one. And the responsibility to, of course, execute the correct upon the correct objective, but also put on the table the implications of what you are doing. So if, for instance, we are constantly investing in short-term initiatives, so in drive to store promotions, and we never invest in brand, and we never invest in communication upon emotions and values and quality, then the brand and the company needs to know that within 2 or 3 years, the brand equity will definitely go down. So now maybe you get sales, you get results, we are good, we do our best job, but please be aware of the fact that in 3 years, your reputation is down. You just discounted, your margins are not good anymore. So it's going to be more and more difficult to increase margin through a more qualitative communication. So this is a little bit the first reasoning that I do, and understand with the property, with the CEO and with the owners, where are we going? What do we want to do? And which are the implications of what we are doing? Then once we decided the perfect amount of budget, so for instance, if we decide that there is space also to do some brand investments, then in that case, you need to, of course, consider the impact that you want to have through the brand investment. So if it's, for instance, share of voice, if it's, for instance, increase in brand awareness, if it's, for instance, just be a little bit more impactful as with some initiative that will position you in a more modernized way. So invest in digital online initiatives and be a little bit more appealing on that side. And then you will get through, according to the channel that you have. I don't know, you want to get impressions, you want to get traffic, you want to get brand awareness increase. So then you do some survey to measure before and after the campaign that you want to do. But of course, this is the only way to look a little bit at the long term and to stay with your brand relevant in the market. So if you stop doing that, you may benefit in the short term, but it needs to be clear that in the long term, it's a mess.
Yeah, you need to show the board the trade-offs of each choice.
Yeah.
Right?
So maybe at the end you will do what you have to do, but it's my responsibility to put on the table the implications.
Yeah, show the
I don't know, guys, if you agree on that. I mean, I'm open to hear more point of views, because I think that everybody struggles a bit with this kind of topic. So it's interesting to see maybe some other experience.
I think from my experience, marketing is the guardrail and it has to challenge. And I mean, I think I'm very much in line with you. Sometimes you're talking to people who are not in the day-to-day, or they can be very conservative. And I like challenging perspectives. I like it. Like why not do? I believe, for example, for a fashion brand, the biggest the main influencers you can have are your own salespeople. Like why are we not turning them into creators and influencers? Because they have the contact with the clients every day. They are customer facing. So why are we not doing more of that? But of course that has to go through a board, and I get it, like so, and that's why I have my own business, and that's as simple as that. Gustavo is here, and yeah, so I think it's very important to challenge that, and it's not every place that we can get people to understand where we want to go, and that's also fine, right? So I think as marketeers, we have to to stand for something. And by the way, I don't think there's a problem to change opinions. It's fine, but I think it's so important to test things, and of course learn. And I'm not a believer in measure everything. I mean, you can't, I have 10 people here. What's the power of having 10 people in a room who are gonna be talking about us after? So it's like, how do you measure that? How do you measure people who are going to replicate and talk about you afterwards? And so I believe in long-term plays. Yes, I think you have to be thinking about sales. So everyone, we have a paid club. You're very welcome to join us and reach out if you want to know more about what you can have in the paid club. We look at the short term as well, but I believe so much in the power of brand, and so. But to your point, yes, we I think as marketeers we have to challenge, and I love your perspective there. So
Great.
Yeah. My opinion is that it's basically a matter of the vision. So, and also to connecting with everything your company does. So you're talking with your customer as a brand. You're talking with your customer every day and diverse in multiple points. So sometimes people forget to use the all the points to pass your brand message. So maybe it's through your customer service. How do you contact with your customer in your support center, in your customer service, within your online chat, within your, if you have a phone to talk to your customer. So these are all also brand contacts. So we can also pass your brand voice through all the contact points that you have with your client within, as long as you're doing also the short term, because at the end of the day, the company needs to pay the bills, like everyone, and the companies are the same. And but I think, and that's my last question, and maybe to close. I think when we're talking about in terms of fashion brand, it's a bit more. I don't know if it's easier, but maybe it's a bit more seasonal. Seasonal. This division, because when you're launching a new collection. Yeah, when you're launching a new collection, you're talking more about branding and etc. because it's new, and then you have the other side. So, just to close that, does that make sense? Does that happens actually?
So let me understand if I catch your question. You say you every time you launch a new collection, you have the opportunity to talk about the brand. So how do you do that? Is that?
Yes, my question is that, so in this division in terms of branding and marketing, sales, let's say, when you're launching a new collection, it's more about the branding. Yes, it's more about spreading the voice, spreading what the company thinks, and then few weeks later, you can start. Well, this is my point of view. You can start with the marketing more heavy.
Tactics with a more tactical approach. Yeah, I mean, this is correct. So it's either when you launch a new collection. So for instance, in fashion, it's very easy because you have spring, summer, and then autumn, winter. So then you go there, you launch, and then there's the new in, and you have the opportunity to tell about the collection, to tell the reason why you are delivering a specific style rather than a specific color, a specific trend. So this is very much in line. But what I think it's even more important to have when it comes to a brand is to understand which are the core products that you have within your collection and build upon that. It's like to understand, to catch the iconics that you have inside, you know. For instance, I don't know, an iconic jacket, an iconic item that will connect with the heritage. So we'll constantly connect with the roots of the brand, and then you build upon one single item that will then be very much connected with the whole history of the brand. So when you have this is the greatest opportunity to actually do brand building. Then you have the collection, you know, guys, come in the store. I have the new collection. Of course, I'm making it funny, but this is a little bit more a routine. And then you have the tactics upon the collection, I would say. But what you say is correct. So it's either the launch of the collection, an element inside the collection that would resonate very much with the brand, and you can tell a story about that. And then you go to the tactics and be a little bit more commercial.
Okay, thank you.
That's brilliant. All right, we are on 1 hour and 5 minutes, and time flies when content is great. So Mihaela, this was really nice. Are you there? I just, yeah, it was great. So Mihaela, just maybe a few final remarks. I mean, you're within the club, but if people want to know more about what you do and what's the best channel?
Well, I think, I don't know, do you still see my video? Because
No, we kind of lost you, but it's perhaps you want to turn on and off. Otherwise, we could see you all throughout. You can see, so maybe it's just me. Gustavo says he can see you, so
okay, okay, I don't know. Well, WhatsApp, it's good if you want to start from there. We can.
All right, cool.
WhatsApp, LinkedIn, of course, but I think the more reactive channel it's WhatsApp.
Very good. Perfect. This was awesome. Thank you so much, Mihaela. This was a pleasure to have you. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed as well.
I did.
So
thank you very much.
Yeah, great stuff. Thank you. Thanks all. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Thank you, Carlos. Bye. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye. See ya.